Good morning, everyone. We are on Daf Samachay Amud Beis at the bottom, right at the Mishnah. We're in the midst of the Parakim to talk about items that may or may not be worn in a public domain, in a place of Rosh Hashanah where it may be considered carrying. We're going to learn about someone who is an amputee and has prosthetics and the various forms of either prosthetics or means for transportation that self-transportation that someone in such a state would have, and most relevant to us nowadays would be a walking stick, a cane if somebody needs it, crutches, such things, and a wheelchair. So the question is, what may or may not be worn in the public domain? Exactly what the items that are being referred to in the Mishnah is a matter of great discussion in Rashi, Tues, and other Rishonim. We're going to go with Rashi for the most part. Takiteya, somebody who's an amputee, Yotza bekav shelo, can go with his prosthetic foot. Divrei Rabbi Meir. So since it is it's like his shoe, even though that he really doesn't have a foot, but his stump goes into the prosthetic foot, and as such, it's a form of a shoe for him. However, Rabbi Yossi says it's prohibited. That it's not a shoe because it's not really worn as a shoe. It doesn't go over the foot. It has a fake front to make it look like a foot, and it's not an adornment either. It's not a tachshit, so it's not worn, and it's not a tachshit. So he says it's prohibited to be worn. We'll see in the Gemara that there was a text that said it the other way around, that the Tanakama, or Rabbi Meir, said it was prohibited, and Rabbi Yossi is the one that said permitted, but ultimately the text we have is the one the Gemara sticks with. While we're talking about this prosthetic, it's the Gemara says if besides for the place for the stump in the prosthetic, there's also a place for cushions. So you would put in cotton or soft leather, whatever, to make it more comfortable. So then it's a receptacle. It's not a receptacle and a vessel if it only is a prosthetic, because there it's not carrying the foot. It's the other way around. The foot is carrying the shoe, the prosthetic. But if there's cushions in there, so now the receptacle is a receptacle for the cushion, and therefore it's a vessel and susceptible to tumor. Go ahead.
Case it doesn't have a base kibble, so it's not a kli. And in the second case, it is a kli, bekav tumor.
It's because of its receptacle.
Because it's got a base kibble. What does that got to do with Hoitzon Shabbos and Tilt?
No, it's a separate. It has nothing to do with.
So it's agaborcha.
Yeah, once we're talking about it, it tells you. By the way, it's also not going to be susceptible to tumor until the time that it has a receptacle. It's a base kibble. Now it has the indentation. That's a receptacle, but it's not servicing anything in that receptacle because it's not holding the foot or leg. It's the other way around. The foot carries it. So the receptacle is not acting as a receptacle. But when it has, it has the cushions in there as well, so then it's acting as a receptacle to the cushions. It's a base kibble, and therefore it's a vessel, a kli, and it's susceptible to tumor. Smucha shaloi.
But nafka minas for Shabbos, that's agavurcha.
Correct. And smucha shaloi, it supports tamei midras. Those become tamei as a midras, as something that can that is pressured up. So we saw before that there is a tumah of touch. There's a tumah of something being in the vessel for certain vessels, and then there's in certain tumas there's a tumas midras, that anything that the tamei person leans on or sits on or lays on will be susceptible to tumah in and of itself. So that tumah of the receptacle, that tumah of pressure is midras, and it would apply on these supports. Now, what are these supports? So the way Rashi says is that these are really, sometimes the foot would drag, the stump itself would drag. So whether it would be that the person was moving himself on without a prosthetic by dragging along the ground, or some other form of movement. So there would be a leather protection of the healthy leg, the remaining leg, so that it not get dragged and not get bruised by being dragged on the ground. And those were the smuchos, according to Rashi. Others say that it's some sort of support of the leg itself, whether there's like these knee scooters for someone that has a broken leg. I forget what they're called. Maybe it's a knee scooter. One of them looked like that, but instead of a scooter, it was like a crutch. Others, another interpretation is that it was a crutch itself. Either way, there was some sort of support, and it is susceptible to tumah of midras, of pressure. But those may be worn on Shabbos because they do connect to the foot. It's more of a garment. It's a part of the clothing. And since they don't act as a shoe, you're allowed to walk into the Beis Hamikdash. As we know, you're not supposed to walk with shoes on the Har HaBayis, on the Temple Mount, and into the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. And so these don't act as shoes, and so you're allowed to come into it. Kisei usmucha shaloi, the chair and its supports, tamei medras. Those are tamei medras. So what are these? What is this chair? So someone who was a double amputee, so they would create a chair that this person would sit on, and and they would use two knuckle cushions that they would lift themselves off, and they would basically walk with their knuckle cushions by pushing down on the ground and lifting their torso off the ground, and it had a chair, basically a protection that they could rest on between each movement, and that was the way that they would be able to move. So that chair and its supports, which also are a protection of the remaining of the stump at the end of the amputation, which would protect also was a leather cushion that would protect the ends, which would also be somewhat of a support. Depending on how much of the leg was left, they would use that to give it some support as they were lifting themselves up with this chair and the knuckle cushions. So these, the chair and its supports, tamei midras, they are tamei midras because they can be, they are pressured on by the person. And they cannot be used on Shabbos because they're not a garment and they're not a shoe. They're not an adornment. It's a whole contraption attached. This chair is attached to the person, so he's carrying the chair and cannot be carried in a public domain. And you may not walk in with them in the azara, into the courtyard, or to the Har HaBayis or the Temple Mount, because this is like a shoe. The next part of the Mishnah really has nothing to do with the previous one, it seems. So Luktamin, Taharim Yatzim Shabbos. Luktamin, the Gemara is going to have three interpretations. The middle one is the closest one to the rest of the Mishnah, and that would be stilts. But the other two interpretations are some sort of plaything that's like a pony worn over the body, or a mask. So we have over here the basic concept is that machlokas of whether something worn as whether a prosthetic is a shoe or not, and then whether it's worn or not, and then whether it's a receptacle or not, it's susceptible to tumah or not, and whether you're allowed to go into the harabais with it. If it's a shoe, you may not. If it's not a shoe, you may go on to the Temple Mount with it. Amalei Rav Nachman. So Rav said to Rav Nachman, Hechi Tanah. What's the correct text in our Mishnah? Is the first opinion say it's permissible to wear this, and Rabbi Yossi say it's not, or vice versa? Rabbi Meir is the one that says it's prohibited, and Rabbi Yossi says you may wear it. Amalei Le'adani says, I don't know the correct text. Hilchas Amai, what's the halacha? Amalei Le'adani, I don't know that either. Itmar Amar Shmuel, it is said that Shmuel said, Ein Akiteya, that the text begins that the amputee may not wear the shoe, the prosthetic, which is the Rabbi opinion would be the Rabbi Meir would be of the opinion that it's strict and you may not. And Rabbi Yossi was a lenient one. And that's the way Rav Huna had the text as well. Since Shmuel says that the text is that the amputee may not wear this prosthetic, and Rav Huna also says that the text is that Rav Meir says that the amputee may not wear such a prosthetic. Ananami nisnei enakitei. So we'll also change the text of our Mishnah, and we'll say that the first opinion is that that Rabbi Meir says you may not wear, an amputee may not wear this prosthetic as a shoe, and Rabbi Yossi says it is permissible. Maskav la Rabbi Shera. L'shemilu ha the masnir of Chana Marava l'chia barav kameid Rav bekituni de berav. Have you not heard the teaching that that Rav Chanan Barava taught Chia, the son of Rav, in front of Rav in the chambers of Rav? So this in front of Rav to the son of Rav in his private quarters. This was the teaching. Eina kitea yetze bekav shaloi divrei Rabbi Meir. So the text that we're discussing is the way it was taught in front of Rav, and Rav motioned to flip it, and umachvi le Rav epach. Rav motioned, no, flip it. That the text that you're saying is wrong. Rabbi Meir is the one that says it's permissible, and Rabbi Yossi says it's prohibited, like the text we have. Amar Nachman Yitzchak b'simanich samach samach, and the siman, the mnemonic you have to remember this, is Yossi Oser. Rav Yossi is the one that prohibits. So both of them have the samach in it. Rav Yossi Oser. That's the way to remember. So Gemara says, V'av Shmuel, other way. Shmuel also retracted his opinion and went back to saying that the text we have, that Rabbi Meir was the lenient one, and Rabbi Yossi was strict and said that it doesn't count as a shoe, and therefore you can't wear it on Shabbos because it's not an adornment, it's not a shoe. You can't go out on public domain with it. How do we know that he says it's not a shoe? The Tanan we learned. We know the halacha is that a man who dies without children, his wife is a yavama, and it is a mitzvah on the brother to reestablish the surviving brother to reestablish his deceased brother's household, and if he does not, they do chalitza. And the way chalitza is done is that she will take off his shoe and say that he refuses to reestablish a brother's household. So cholza sandal, if she took off his sandal, she'ena shaloi, but it wasn't his, it doesn't fit his, or it doesn't fit his foot. A sandal shall eitz, or took a wood sandal off, or shall small beyamin, or a left shoe that was on the right shoe, that was on the right foot. Chalitza kshera, those are valid. Vamrin and mantama tana, and we said, whose opinion is this? That these are valid, that these count as having had a shoe on the foot and taking it off. Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Meir, Shmuel says there's an opinion of Rabbi Meir that says that these count as as a shoe. The Tanan, as we learned, and it brings our Mishnah. Hakiteya Yotze B'Kav Shelo Divrei Rabbi Meir. The Rameya says that a wood prosthetic shoe, which is really a foot, counts. And Rabbi Yossi says that you may not go out with it. So we see that Rabbi Yossi says that this wood prosthetic does not count as a shoe. So from the fact that as proof text of whose opinion it is, we said that Rabbi Meir is that opinion because Rabbi Yossi says that the wood doesn't count as a shoe and brings the text the way we have it. So that proves that Shmuel retracted and went with Rav and said that indeed the text we have is as is. Rav Huna also retracted and said that indeed the text is the way we have it. That Akiteya, that Rameh is the lenient one and says that you may wear this wooden prosthetic, that a wood shoe counts as a shoe. The Tani we learn sandal shel sayadim tamei midras v'isha chayletzas b'yotzei b'shabbos divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says that a plaster maker's shoes may be worn on Shabbos outside, and it counts as chalitza. It's a real shoe, and it's therefore tamei midras. It's a vessel and susceptible to tumah and midras of pressure. Now, what is this shoe? Rashi says it's a wood shoe like clogs that it would wear around the plaster because the plaster would eat through their typical shoes, the leather. Tues says that it was some sort of straw shoe, I guess the original Converse. In any case, so Rabbi Akiva says that these are a real shoe, and therefore these halachas apply. It's susceptible to tumah of midras. It counts in chalitza and removal of the shoe for this woman, and it may be worn on Shabbos. The Chachamim did not agree to him. They did not agree to him, to Rabbi Akiva in this. The Tanya. So Vatanya, but we did find that either Brisa or Mishnah, the difference in text, say that they did agree with him. The Chachamim. Amar Rav Huna man hodoloi. Who agreed to him? Rabbi Meir. Our Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. That says that it does count as a shoe. That's who agreed to him that these wood clogs of a sayadim, of these plasterers, counts as a shoe. Oman loy Rabbi Yossi, and who did not agree to him, Rabbi Yossi. So we see Rav Huna using the text we have as who would have agreed to Rabbi Akiva that it's a shoe, because they say a wood clog counts as a shoe, and therefore the prosthetic counts as a shoe. And who disagrees? Vamar Rav Yosef. And also, Rav Yosef said, he says, no, it's somebody else. It wasn't Rabbi Yossi who disagreed with him. It's Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri who disagreed with him. The Tanam we learned, Kivera shel kash. The text we have is a cylindrical basket, I guess a basket of straw. And a reed used as a tube. Tesis, the Gra has the text from a Mishnah as opposed to Brisa as we have it. In the Mishnah, it says that the straw was not a cylindrical basket, but rather a mat. Either way, these are of a mat made of straw or a basket made of straw. It's going to be very weak and not really a solid vessel. So Rabbi Akiva Matame, nevertheless, Rabbi Akiva says it's susceptible to tumah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Mitayr. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, no, that's not a vessel. It's not susceptible to tumah. And so too over here, we're going to say that these shoes of a sayadin are not going to count as a shoe according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. And Rabbi Akiva says it does count as a shoe, and that's what it means. He didn't agree to him. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri disagreed by saying, no, that does not count as a proper vessel. Amar Mar. Now we're going to analyze this idea of the plasterer's shoe. Sandal shel sayadim tamei midras. It's the shoe of a sayad is tamei as a midras, as a pressure. This is what are you talking about? It's not made for walking with. No, it is made for walking. True, it's not comfortable to walk in. Mainly, it's just a work boot, a work shoe that's made to stand on so that it doesn't disintegrate with around the plaster. Nevertheless, the plasterer would walk home with it at the end of the day, and as such, it is a shoe because it is something that's worn typically and he'd go out with. So again, and therefore, it's going to be permissible to walk out with on Shabbos in a public domain, and it will be susceptible to Tumah of Midrash because it is a shoe. And if a woman removed that type of shoe in the Chalitza mitzvah, it would be proper Chalitza. The Mishnah continued and said that if this vessel, this prosthetic, which had a receptacle, which was really a receptacle for the stump, and therefore the foot was carrying it, carrying the shoe, not vice versa, and so it wasn't really acting as a receptacle, it's not going to be tummy. But if you put it, there's place not only for the stump but also for cushions, so then it's a receptacle for the cushions and is susceptible to tummy. So what kind of tumah would it have as a receptacle? So Abaye says it has a tumah of contact of tumas mace, of having come into contact with the deceased, and but not midras, not a pressure. And Rava after midras. Rava says no, even the tumah of midras of pressure. Amar Rava menaminila. And Rava says, how do I know this? At Tanan we learned a gola shel katan, a small wagon of for a child. Seems like it would be like the original doll carriage that a child would play with, but sometimes sit in it, according to Rashi. And according to Tues, it would be the original walker. A child would have a ring on wheels, and it would use it to learn how to walk, but sometimes sit on it. So either this agala shel katan, this wagon of a child, tamei midras, it is susceptible to tumah of pressure, even though that it isn't made for and isn't typically sat in, but sometimes it is sat in, and therefore it's susceptible to tumah of pressure. Says there he leans on it. Here he doesn't lean on it, and therefore it's not going to be tamei as as something that is a pressure. It's not made for sleeping on, sitting on, or leaning on, and therefore it's not susceptible to the tumah of midras. Abai says, and how can I prove it to you? The time we learn, makel shazakedim tor miklu, a walking stick of an old person is not susceptible to tumah of, because the tumas mace and the other tumas is not going to be susceptible to, because it's just it's not a receptacle, it's a plain piece of wood. And as far as midras goes, it's not made for midras because it doesn't support, it doesn't, it's not made to sit on, it's not made to lean on. But Rava says that, yeah, the reason is Hasam l'terutzi sugya avida. There really, it's just to stabilize him when he walks and to make sure that he can walk upright. So this walking stick is really just as an extra balance, but it isn't something that you're actually leaning on. Whereas this prosthetic, it actually is the pressure. That's what one is leaning on. And therefore, it would be susceptible to the tumah of midras of pressure. It's made to lean on, and he does lean on it, and therefore it is susceptible to tumah midras as well. Essentially, the machlokas here is, in order for something to be tumah midras, it has to be made for the pressure that the tumah would put on it, meaning a chair, a mattress, a bed, and any of the sort. Vessels that are really functioning as something else, and it just by chance sometimes somebody will lean on it, it'll not be susceptible to tumah of midras. And the question is, we see from the Mishnah that this child's wagon is susceptible to Tumah Midras, so that proves that as long as sometimes it's used as such, it's susceptible to Tumah Midras. And Abaye makes a distinction and says that it would have to be primarily its function, and it brings proof of that from a walking stick. And Rabbi says, no, a walking stick is there as a support when somebody's walking and they're not sure that they're stable with it, and therefore it's not their main pressure. Whereas a prosthetic is that is what it's for. It's made to be stepped on and to walk on, and therefore is susceptible of Tumah Midras. Tumah Midras vein yotzem b'Shabbos vein nechnas b'hem la'azora. You can't use it as a shoe, you can't walk out with it, and you can't go into the courtyard of the Azara. Somebody was teaching this idea in front of Rabbi Yochanan. But he said, and you can walk into the courtyard with it. I teach that, Rabbi Yochanan responded, I teach that a woman can use this as chalitza. In other words, she could take it off the person's shoe. Like Rabbi Meir, that it counts as a shoe, and therefore the chalitza works with it. And you say you can actually wear it and walk into the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash with it. To me, the correct text you need to learn, it teaches, you may not walk into the Azara with it because it's a shoe. For this person, this is what they're wearing as a shoe, and therefore you can't walk into the Temple Mount with it. Luktamin. So what are these luktamin that tahara that are not susceptible to tumah? So my luktamin, Amar Rabbi Abahu, Chamra de Akba. It is a shoulder donkey. Basically, they would wear this on the shoulder with a donkey with shoulder straps. So it was, if you think of some of these blow-up costumes where the person stands in the middle of the costume, and they can have a dinosaur or some other creature, some other thing that they're basically carrying along with them. So this is what there's a crude original costume, a donkey that was hollow in the a donkey shape that was hollow in the middle, and the person would stand in the middle, and there was straps over the shoulders to hold it, and it was a toy, a game. So that's not a receptacle, not a vessel, not susceptible to tumah, and you can't wear it on Shabbos outside. Rabbi Bar Papa says kshiri. He says it's stilts. Rashi says functional stilts that would be worn in a muddy place. Some say play stilts, that it was in the same vein as the other two, the mask and this shoulder donkey. And Rabbi Rav Huna Amar Frumi, and he says that it's some sort of masks that were put on for playing and for scaring people. These are not vessels, not susceptible to tumah, and as we saw in the Mishnah, you cannot carry them, you cannot wear them in public domain. Abanim yitzah b'kasharim. Children can wear, sons can go out with, or children could go out with these knots. Gemara is going to explain what these knots are. And princes can go out with bells on their garments, so they would have these bells on whether it's on the lapel or different parts of their garment, in order to show as a form of jewelry, some of beautification. And really anybody can go out with them. But the Chacham spoke in what is common, and that's what was common. Princes would wear such a garment. So my kashar. So the first thing it says that the children could go out with ksharim, with these knots. What kind of knots are we talking about? Amar Adab Mari, Amar Nachman Baruch, Amar Vashi Baravan, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. In the name of Rabbi Yehuda, he said, Kishure Puah. It was knots made of some sort of grains, some sort of grain stalks that would be turned into twine and made into knots, and it was a remedy. And the whether it's the smell or the oils of this grain that would be knotted around the child would help them heal. Abaya, just a little bit about Abaya's mother. Abaya, both of his parents died before. His father died before he was born. His mother died in childbirth, and so he was an orphan. And his mother that raised him, he called Amrli Aim, my mother, Aim, mom. And he quotes her many, many times. It seems like she was a healer, and a lot of potions and a lot of remedies and a lot of medical advice or medical-like advice in the Gemara comes from Abaya's mother. So Abaya says, Amrli Aim, my mother said to me, Tilasa mukmi, 3 knots of this pua plant will stop the disease from spreading. Chamisha masu, 5 of these knots would make it better, and shiva afilu l'chshafim ale. And if you have 7 of them, it would help even if somebody's trying to do black magic on this person. It would stop it. I don't know if it's 5 knots on the one twine that the child is wearing, or it is 7 rings with a knot on each one, and so he's got 1 around his neck and 1 on each arm and 1 on each hand and 1 on each foot, something like that. So I'm not sure what this means, the knots. But anyhow, I've not tried it, and I don't know what the pua is either. So it's not going to be a practical remedy for anything right now. Rav Yaakov says, you know what when this pua plant is going to be is going to work as this potion, as this remedy? It's only if it never saw sun. So it was never out by day, by night. V'lechazi mitra, never had rain. And never heard metalsmith sound, and never heard a chicken's sound, and it never heard the sound of a woodcutter and a woodsmith. Great. So now this remedy of the pua fell into the pit, meaning it's useless, because obviously you're not going to find a plant that grew without rain, sun, nighttime, and never heard any sound. In any case, the Gemara is going to challenge Rav Yehuda, who said that this was the knots that we're talking about are the knots of this plant on a person in order to as a remedy. If so, my area banim. So why would it say in the Mishnah that the children can go out with such a knot? Which banim sons, afilu banas, it would be even daughters. Nami, my area ketanim, afilu gedolim. Why only children, even adults? Ela Mike Sharim. Rather, what does it mean knots? Ki hadamar Avim Bar Huna, like Avim Bar Huna said in the name of Chama Bar Guria, ben sheyesh gagum alavim, a son who misses his father. And they're afraid that he will go into a depression or anxiety, and as a form of keeping the child healthy. Notil ritzua miminal shal yamin. The father will take the strap, the tie from his right shoe, and tie it onto the son's left arm as a remembrance of the father. So he can always feel like his father's with him, and it'll help him relax. But you don't put it on the right arm, because then he would feel it too much and he'll miss the father. But it's on the left arm, so when he remembers, he can think about it, but it's not always there. And the sign, the way to remember this, the siman, is that it's on your left arm, like the tefillin. But if you put it on the right hand, it actually is dangerous for the child if you're worried about his anxiety and his depression. Actually, it'll be worse if it's on the right arm because he'll remember it always. Amar Avim Bar Huna Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria Sechufi Kasa Atabure B'Shabbos Shabbat. Once we talk about remedies, so he said one remedy, another remedy we have that Avim Bar Huna said that you can do cupping on Shabbos. They would heat up the cup without water and put it onto the navel, and it would suction, and that would heal whatever the ailment was, a stomach ailment. You can do it on Shabbos. Another statement of Mahuna said, in the name of Chama Bar Guria, you're allowed to take oil with some salt, which would thin out the oil, and rub it on Shabbos for an ailment. Rav Huna learned this from the Academy of Rav, and Rav learned it from the Academy of Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia learned it from the Academy of Rebbe. When somebody was too drunk, they would bring this oil and salt. They would rub it into the palms of the hands and the foot and the feet of this person who was drunk. And they would say, just as the oils thin in the salt, so too this should help thin the wine or weaken the wine of so and so, the son of his mother. The Meiri says, of course, the Gemara means to say is that the remedy is what does the work, and people used to say a lachash, a form of prayer to Hashem that the remedy work, as we saw in the Gemara and Brachas, and we mentioned that the halacha is when someone does a medical remedy of any sort, they should say, "You Hashem are the healer, and may it be your will that the remedy I am doing should be effective."
What's the heter here to do this on Shabbos though? To do things that are for refuah.
Because they're not going to come to none of these are going to bring to make a spice, to make a potion, because you don't have to grind anything, you don't have to do anything. So these are regular household things. It's only something that's going to require making something that's going to require making a potion that we're afraid you may make the potion on Shabbos. But if it's not a potion, this is oil and salt. This is it's just a cup with hot water.
So, but like an ice pack, something like that.
Correct. Yeah, you could do those on Shabbos. Yeah. And the Gemara, once we're at it, says, and if not, obviously this would not be allowed to be done on Shabbos. But if for somebody that's drunk, if they don't have oil and salt, they can bring the wax from the seal of a barrel and loosen it in water and put that on. And in the same way, they would say, and the prayer is that the person's wine should dissipate in the same way that this is loosened. Another statement of Marhuna said, basically, you can choke on Shabbos. What is this choking? So somebody who had a stiff neck, or his neck was misaligned, so they would do a stretching sort of chiropractic on the neck, a stretching of the neck to make it aligned. They would pull the head upward and stretch the neck so that it's realigned. So that is allowed to be done on Shabbos. Again, it's not, even though it's medicinal, it's not a potion, and it's permissible. Also, a newborn child that needs the limbs massaged and wrapped in order to be in place. Sometimes there's a dislocated shoulder in the birth process, or some the limbs just need to be realigned. Is also permissible on Shabbos. So we had various statements that Rabbi Avin that Avin Bar Huna said, and two of them, the first and the last, pertain to children. The first one, that a child that has sadness or anxiety for yearning for their father who's away, though that you can do this not on the arm. And the last one was a newborn child to straighten the child out and massage the child and wrap the child up. So Rav Papa Masni Banim, Rav Papa says, both of the children halachas or in the name of Rabbi Avin Bar Huna. Rav Tzvi Nasni Ben, but Rav Tzvi said only one of them was in his name. Rav Papa Masni Banim v'Tarbayu Masni Lahu Avin Bar Huna. He says both were in the name of Avin Bar Huna. But Rav Tzvi Masni Ben, he says that only one of them is in the name of Avin Bar Huna. Kamaisa Masni B'Avin Bar Huna. The first one, the son missing his father, he taught in the name of Avin Bar Huna. The last one that says that a child can be, a newborn, can be massaged and wrapped, that's in the name of Rabbi Bar Chana. The Amar Rabbi Bar Chana, Lifufi Yanuke B'Shabsa Shabbat. That Rabbi Bar Chana is the one that said that you can straighten out a child on Shabbos. Amar Abaya, Amar Li'ain. Abaya says another potion remedy from his mother. Kol minyana b'shma de'ema. Any time that you need to do a remedy, and you're going to say a prayer that has a set amount of times to say that prayer, a lachash, is going to be, if you say it 3 times or 5 times or 9 times, whatever it may be that you're supposed to say it, is you always mention the person and their mother's name. And this is what we do when we pray for the ill. We say the person plus their mother's name. And anything that requires a knot, the knotting is always going to be on the left arm or the left foot. Abaya further said, Amar Li'aim, my mother would say to me, anytime that there's a remedy that requires some sort of lachash, some sort of incantation or prayer that you would say, you always would say whatever number is prescribed. Besides, for if there is no prescription, and if there's no prescription, you always do it 41 times. We'll continue with some of the potions and remedies via tomorrow. I just want to mention, Michael, you asked about Shabbos. In short, the halacha is that we saw that you can't, certain remedies you can't do on Shabbos because it requires a potion. And if you're going to come to make a potion on Shabbos, that's going to take grinding. And grinding is going to be a Torah prohibition. You have to grind the spices in order to make the potion. There are other halachas that also could be transgressed in the process. And even though we don't make potions today, but some of the potions require, whether it comes in powder form and you have to add water to it, or other forms of malacha that can be done with it. So you're not allowed to, unless it's an ailment that somebody is sick, you're not allowed to take a medicine on Shabbos, or there's a limit to how to do it. But we, as Michael is asking, what we see over here that some potions are allowed, and the reason is because these were just basic household things. And Michael, if you remember, we talked about the Rabbi Yonasan Shteif was of the opinion that therefore common over-the-counter medicines that you find in any house, like a Tylenol, aspirin, or Advil, which are found in anybody's house. So therefore, that would be like olive oil and salt, and therefore be permitted on account of that it is a household thing, and there's no concern that you're going to make a potion.
Is that a widely accepted psak?
I don't know how widely. I haven't polled it, but some people follow that and some don't. I grew up following it, and we grew up in the Kehillah of Rabbi Yonasan Shtei. But I don't know how widely it is. Rabbi Badner in his Sefer does not like it. Has pages disagreeing with it, and it comes out that you should not follow it.
And I think in the Shmir Shabbos Gilchasa, what I remember in Shmir Shabbos Gilchasa, I mean, like very common, like anything that's like for a fool, like ice pack or this kind of thing. I think he says is not for a michush is not. That's what I remember. I remember
it may be what he says over there. Over here in the Gemara, and the halacha is it's brought la halacha, these common kinds of things like cupping for or a hot water bottle for a stomach ailment, or this rubbing olive oil or whatever is going to be permissible.